YouTube family? It's Natalie. It's Hotshot Adventures. Let's start video 4. Okay, so we're getting closer and closer and closer to becoming a completely independent owner-operator. In this video, we are going to cover having your own MC and DOT and your own insurance and your own plates and your own everything, except you have a dispatch service and you have a factoring company that each of those services, they are services, so they are going to require that you pay for the service, right? Each of those services are going to be paid services, but they are going to, hopefully, they're going to save you from headache. They're going to save you time. That's what a dispatch company should be doing, is saving you time and effort and saving you from having to pay for the subscriptions to the load boards. It means you have your own truck, your own trailer, your own securement. You have your own MC and DOT number. If you are a CDL holder running cross country, then you need to have apportion plates. So that means you have your own IFTA and IRP account, and you have your own apportion plates. Everything is yours, right? You are not leased onto somebody else's authority. You're not paying anybody else. You're not giving anybody else a piece of your pie. This is all your stuff. You just need help with dispatching, right? Which a dispatcher should be saving you time and money, both time and money, and finding loads for you. And then a factoring company, so that you don't have the headache of tracing and tracking and sending invoices to brokers and then waiting that 30-day or anywhere from 15 to 45 days to get paid. And the reason why some guys need a factoring company is because they just simply cannot float the business. Now, again, this goes back to starting with capital or having access to capital, or just literally starting so low with your payments and your monthly costs. You're starting so low because you've invested so much on the front end. A good example comes to mind is Alvin. Alvin has invested so much money on the front end. He, with the equipment, paid for his equipment and everything outright. So his monthly costs are very, very minimal. However, he still needs to be paid back. So those tens of thousands and tens of thousands of dollars that he personally put in to loaning the LLC, the trucking company, he loaned that money to the trucking company. That money needs to be paid back to him. Even though it looks like on paper his monthly costs are very low, he still should be allocating a chunk every month, whatever it is, a chunk of the profits from that LLC should be going back to him, so that he needs to be paid back, right? That money came from somewhere. The startup money came from somewhere, and it needs to be returned. Just like if you were to, take a loan out, or if you did a HELOC on your personal home, so that you could get revenue out, right, of the home, so that you can use that $50,000 or whatever it is, so that you can start the trucking company. Well, it's the same thing. If you are floating like I did, right? If you're floating the company to get started, then you need to be paid back. You're starting very minimally, or for whatever reason you just don't have the capital that's going to float your personal expenses and your personal lifestyle, as well as the company for those first 30 to 45 days, which it will be very hard, right? I went through it. It's very hard to live very, very modestly and barely get by to pay your bills, your personal bills, as well as the company bills, while you wait for invoices to be paid. That's how I started. I did not start out with a factoring company. I personally really don't believe in factoring companies, and after we're done with this video series, I will do at least one video, probably be kind of a long one, but I will do a video about factoring companies. I don't believe in them, and unless you have many trucks and you just don't want to deal with the headache of having to track and trace invoices, then if you're just one truck and one operator, they take a percentage. They take a percentage, and that percentage may not seem a lot on a weekly basis, but when you add it up over the 48 weeks that you work in the year, or the 45 weeks that you work in the year, because nobody's working. We're not here to go independent to work 52 weeks a year. Like, this is not going to happen. 45 weeks is probably about what you want to be working at least, like max 45 weeks, max 45 weeks a year is ideal. You know, you don't need to kill yourself and work every single week, and it's just not possible. Your trailer will go down, your truck will go down, you'll have birthdays, the kids have birthdays, somebody's graduating, somebody's retiring, somebody's moving, there's always something. So there's a reason for you to need to take time off. If you're using a factoring company, right, they're gonna take 1.5%, 1.9%, 2.5%, 2.99%. The factoring company is a bank, okay? They are purchasing your invoices for your loads, and they are the ones who are waiting the 30 or 45 days to get paid, and they are paying you basically instantaneously, usually a 2-day or a next day, or, you know, every factoring company is a little bit different, but usually you can get like a rush payment, which is same day or next day, if it's a business day, or you can just get regular, which is normally 2-day, and it's ACH to your bank. So it's very simple, and then you don't have to track and trace. You still have to track and trace. You still have to watch the factoring company, okay? Which for me, if I'm going to give up a percentage, I would think, okay, I want to give you my percentage, I want to send you my invoice, and I want to be done with it, right? Well, you still got to watch them because they're a bank, okay? They're always going to want their money, and I'm going to try not to get too much into it because we'll do a whole other video on factoring companies. But let's just say, for example, right, you're one operator, one truck, one trailer. You went and got your own MC, which cost you $300. You went and got your own LLC, which anywhere from free to $500 to $1,000, just depends on how you did your LLC, if you used a third-party company, or if you did all of it on your own. It can be very cheap if you do it on your own, if you know how to do it. And if you use a third-party company like Zen Business or whoever, then it's going to cost, $5 or $7 or whatever, $100. And then you went out, you had a little bit of capital going, so you put insurance. You got to put insurance on the DOT and the MC to get the authority to go active. You got your own plates, and you have everything on your own. You just don't want to wait for that money to come in. If you were like me, when I started, I had a dispatch company. I've told you guys a couple times when I very first started, I had a dispatch company, and it's not because I didn't know how to dispatch, because I have years and years and years. I've been in trucking for 20 years basically, and I could dispatch a truck. I could dispatch 30 trucks, but I had a new authority. I had very little experience hauling a trailer. I had a brand new CDL. And if you guys remember, looking back, the first year that I started this company was the first year that my daughter was supposed to go into high school. She was going to be a freshman in high school. I have pretty much always, been a single mom. My daughter was pretty much either, when I was at work, she was being raised by my mom and taken care of by my mom, which is a blessing. I'm so grateful, right? It was either me or my mom. I was tired of that, and I weighed out the pros and the cons of having my mom continue to, pick up my daughter and take my daughter and drop her off and help her with homework and do all of that stuff while I was out on the road, or me taking Lexi completely out of brick and mortar, standard high school, doing online school. I went against what a lot of people in my family, wanted or thought was the best for my daughter, and I pulled her out of high school. I didn't let her start freshman year, and she completed her entire high school credits online at an online school that was free of charge while she went on the road with me. The majority of it, actually. Then COVID hit. Once COVID hit, I stopped taking her on the road, but she was like 15 and a half. Like, she was already a big girl, so she stayed home during COVID, for most of COVID, and she finished her high school. But anyway, so I had new CDL, new authority, and I had my kid in the truck with me, and she's like, I'm getting disconnected from the internet. I have no internet. I'm gonna be late for this class. Look at this, read this to me. So we're trying to do, high school in the truck, and I opted, not because I felt that I could not dispatch myself, but I opted to hire a dispatch company who was definitely they were a Southern California based, and at the time I was in Southern California. They were based in they were based in America for sure. and they did a flat rate, which is another thing that maybe I'll do a dispatch service, video for you guys. They did a flat rate. It's got pros and cons, right? So if you do a flat rate, then it's great. You always know what you're going to pay to the dispatch company. However, if it's flat rate based, there's no incentive for them to hustle more. If I need another load, or if my load is only half the trailer, there's really not that much urgency for them to want to find me another load, which when you get into a percentage based dispatch, service, which the majority of them are. I see car haulers, saying they'll dispatch cars only for as little as 7%. And I see a lot of freight dispatchers, and they charge 10% of the load. Some of them will offer a max out. So like if they find you a $5,000 load, they're not going to charge you 10% of that. They'll charge you a flat rate. So like if the load pays X, anything over X amount of dollars, it was just one load, so it wasn't that much hard work for them. So they'll flat rate you at a maximum dollar amount. So let's continue with that example. And let's just say they find you one load that gross is $5,000. They'll say, okay, well, my max is $300. If I find you one load and it's anything over whatever, $3,000 and up, then I'm only going to charge you $300, which I kind of think is fair. It's one load, and it's probably a unicorn load anyways that you're not going to find very often. But at least, if the dispatcher, it seems kind of a little bit fair, in my eyes. So anyway, back to my experience. So I had this dispatch company, and it was because I had so much other stuff being thrown at me that I wanted to use this dispatch company. They lasted 2 weeks, you guys. 2 weeks. They left me high and dry on a Friday in Northern California, and I deadheaded home to Southern California, and I did not like that. So I took myself and my money out of their equation, and I was like, F it, I'll do it myself, right? So here I go, piling on one other job on top of all my other jobs that I had going on, and it worked out. It worked out. They might have had a couple of direct shippers that they used, and I just kind of dived in and ran load boards when I decided not to use a dispatch company anymore. This is like the second tier from the top, okay, of being completely independent. You're banking on yourself. You're going to do accurate pre-trips and post-trips. You're going to take care of your ELD. You are owning up to your own safety scores, betting on yourself again with your own DOT and MC numbers. You are betting on yourself that you can keep your insurance claims at zero, right? So that the second year, after the first year of operation on the second year, hopefully your insurance opportunities open up because now you're 1 year in the business, and your insurance rate quotes will hopefully go down after your first year because you've kept your safety scores clean and you have put zero claims on the commercial insurance policy that you had for the first year. Your insurance costs will go down, and if you're not finding that they're going down, I say, every year that I go through, I get towards the end of my policy on my commercial policy, pretty much every year I switch insurance companies, and that is because I find somebody who has a better rate, just as good of a rating of insurance, but they have a better rate, or they offer more services such as towing, or something like that, or I can get more insurance coverage. Like this year I'm at $150,000 in cargo coverage for the same that I could be at $100,000 with another company, and that just kind of covers our butt a little bit more. Some of these rate cons, they'll say that the declared value of a partial is $100,000, and I don't know why they put that on the paperwork when you know damn well it ain't no more than $20,000. But they do these little tricks, and if I say I've got 100, if I have 150, then I know I'm good. It's an excellent place to be, you guys, but a couple things I want to point out. Okay, number one, read your contract if you are going to sign up with a factoring company, and I'm going to do a video on this later, so I'll try not to get too much into it, but read your contract, know your rate, and know any additional charges. Again, just because they're charging you a percentage doesn't mean they're not also going to charge you something more if you want, rush service, or if you want to use their fuel card, or if you want ACH. They may charge you an ACH fee, or it may be, a progressive percentage that goes up or down depending on, how much gross revenue of invoices that you factor with them every week. I mean, there's all kinds of tricks and contracts too. They'll put you in there's some that'll put you in a 3-year contract and you didn't even know, and you want to switch to somebody else in 6 months, and you'll find it becomes very difficult or very costly to change. Remember, they are a bank and they will get their money one way or another for sure. And dispatch companies, you guys, it's hard. I wish I had better, information for you. It's hard. I strongly suggest getting somebody that's here in America, that knows our holidays, that knows our traffic, for high, big city areas, that knows where the mountains are, that knows when it's snow chain time, and when you have to, that knows all of these rules, and our holiday. We have 3-day holidays, and we have this and we have that, and you don't want to be stuck somewhere in Nebraska, right before Memorial Day weekend, and then they're like, I have no idea that there's holidays and Nebraska is like a dead zone and la la la. Get somebody that's experienced. If you find somebody that's experienced, they can be worth their weight in gold. They really can, and they should be saving you money. They should be saving you money in the aspect of you don't have to pay for your own load boards, right? But they should mostly be saving you time. Dispatcher is working for you, okay? So if you say, hey, I'm independent, this is the area where I will run, these are the areas that I'm not gonna run, that don't even ask me, I got a deleted truck, I ain't going to California. Or I'm smarter than your average bear, I've already been doing this a while, I ain't doing the Dakotas, or whatever the case. We all as owner-operators have our own stipulations. Some guys, they don't want to tarp. Hey, if I'm your dispatcher and you tell me you don't want to go to the Dakotas, you don't want to go to California, and you don't want to tarp, no problem, no problem. It's one thing when you have your own authority and, you have a dispatcher that is trying to help you. Obviously, they want to fill your trailer so that they can get paid. But if you have stipulations, I think you have every right to voice those stipulations. They're supposed to be working for you. But just know, if you don't want to do California, you don't want to do the Dakotas, you don't want to chain, you don't want to self-load vehicles, you don't want to tarp, you don't want to do this, you don't want to do that, well, just know that all your available pool of potential loads, every stipulation that you notate to your dispatcher is making that pool of available loads smaller and smaller and smaller. So, number 1, you may be sitting longer. Number 2, you might get frustrated. Number 3, you may start to think, hey, what the hell is my dispatcher doing? I want over this per mile. I don't want to talk. Okay, well, that means we are waiting for that one load, right? That one load that is going to hit all of your criteria. So you just know that we are always looking for unicorns, us dispatchers, but sometimes they are harder to find. So you may be sitting a little bit longer. And it's okay to have those conversations with your dispatcher. I think that it should be open conversation, very much so. Your dispatcher should be sending you, hey, maybe they want to send you screenshots. Hey, what about this one? Do you like this one? Whatever. I have had some guys that are very, very picky, and I have some guys that are just like, load me up, Natalie, load me up. And they look at the revenue at the end of the week, and they don't necessarily critique and dissect every single load on every single run. Okay, so me as an operator, I look at it both ways, right? I want to look at and I always show you guys this when I do when I used to do my revenue recaps. I show you all miles and loaded miles, and then I used to do a weekly recap at the end of the week that said, okay, this was how many all miles I ran, this was how many loads I ran, this was how many miles it took me, this was how much fuel it took me. And as independent owner operators, we should all be looking at those numbers. We should all be looking at those numbers. We should be looking at per load, how did my truck behave in these mountains with doing a container for the first time, how was my MPG? How did my truck feel? What kind of fuel mileage did I get? Was it good? Was it bad? You guys and me as independent owner operators, we need to be looking at this stuff. If you're just starting out, I would say don't deny any load from your dispatcher. Try everything. Try a container one time. If you like it, great. Look at those numbers. If they don't make sense when you drop off that container, or you feel like your truck was working too hard, or the MPG that you got did not constitute, what the gross revenue was of that load, then you can go back to your dispatcher and say, hey, look, that one didn't work out. I don't mind doing containers, but I need to have X amount of dollars per mile in order to run another container, because I now know that my truck is only going to get me 5 miles to the gallon, or whatever the case may be. And again, that goes back to communication. You would have an inter dialogue with yourself. If you were the dispatcher, you would be telling yourself, shit, no, I ain't touching another container unless it's $3 a mile, right? Or $3.50 a mile if it comes out of the port, because that's a whole other pain in the butt, right? But if you're not dispatching yourself, then you need to have that communication, that conversation and that open communication with your dispatcher, and explain to them, hey, look, I don't mind doing a container, but I got to get XYZ, or don't give me no ISO tanks. It's the same as a container. I need XYZ, amount of money to do that. A dispatcher should be working for you, okay? And if they are not, find another one. Find another one. Most all dispatchers, ain't nobody going to lock you into a contract, but it's very important to find somebody that is reputable, okay? And the reason for that is you are giving up the power and the control. This is the main thing that I don't like about having a dispatcher or leasing on, okay? You got your own truck and trailer and all your stuff. You put all this money into this. Okay, well, when you lease on, you're giving up the power and the control of how much money your truck and trailer and your 70 hours max per week can generate. You just gave up that control to the company that you leased onto, or you just gave up that control to the dispatcher that you're paying them to find loads for you. That is based upon what load boards they use, how many hours they're going to put towards finding you loads, whether or not they have, direct shippers that contact them, or direct brokers that contact them that say, hey, I need a truck in Dallas, or I need a truck in St. Louis, or you got any hot shots running around here or there. A good dispatcher is going to have some contacts and some connections, whether they be brokers or whether they be direct shippers, it doesn't matter, but hopefully they've been doing it for a while, and they can help you out, not just by saving you time looking on the load board, but they've got more connections than you have. So that's the thing that I don't necessarily like. And the other thing is, and this has happened, Betty comes to mind, which she's doing wonderful, you guys. If any of you guys want to know about Betty and her truck, Big Black Betty, okay? They're doing great. They're doing great. So very, very proud of them. She's in, probably her 3rd year now, and still same truck, same trailer, and killing it. She's doing good. I think she's managed to get quite a few direct customers, and I think she's locked into a specific area, so she doesn't too much. She's not doing cross country, which in my opinion is ideal. Betty comes to mind. Okay, she hired. Sorry, Betty, I'm not going to tell everybody your business, but I'm going to tell them this story. She hired a dispatch company after me. I had just moved to Texas, and I had a lot of crap on my plate, you guys, and I think she probably just wanted a little bit more than I could give her at the time, and so she found a secondary dispatch company. Well, turns out these so-and-sos said they were based in America, lied, and they were really in Dubai, and thick accents and stuff like that. She said they got her some loads, and they did pretty decent with communication and keeping her abreast of communication and stuff like that, but they were not here. They said they were here, and then they were not here, and then all of a sudden she got an email, whoever, some large big box carrier. I don't know if it was, Landstar or whoever it was, but they were like, oh yeah, you booked this, dry van load. And Betty called them, and she's like, what do you mean I booked a dry van load? She's like, I run hot shots, I run hot shots, and it turned out, and I cannot tell you if it was the dispatch company, you guys, but it turned out that her information was somehow hacked into, and somehow somebody was able to book one or more loads under her authority, and she had, you know, that whole mess to clean up. Now, in my opinion, my money is on the dispatch company. You know, they were doing some shady crap, and they were like, we could use, you know, we can use Betty's information to do this or do that or whatever, you know, and so that's the risk that you take. You have to give a dispatcher access to passwords and your company information, and you know, you have to put them as a dispatcher on My Carrier packets and Go Highway and, you know, RMIS, and you know, you have to do all of this stuff. You have to, you know, tell your insurance company that, hey, this is my dispatcher. They need to have access. They need to either have their own login in order to pull COIs, or they need to be an authorized caller. So when they call your insurance company or your insurance broker, they can request COIs on your behalf. So a dispatcher kind of has to have a lot of access to your stuff. So you really need to be trusting them. And again, you are paying them. So it's really important that hopefully you know who's in your corner, and that they are going to protect your information, and hopefully it doesn't get leaked, and you know, more shady crap keeps happening in our industry, you guys. So so that's it in a nutshell. If you're gonna go independent, my vote is if you are going to utilize this tier, right, that we're talking about, of having a completely independent minus dispatcher and a factoring company, I would say try your best to use that as a stepping stone. Try to keep a dispatcher around, find a good one, but try to keep them around for 6 months to a year max. Get your feet wet in the industry, you know, pay them their money if they're doing you a good service. Okay, great. Same thing with factoring, you know, build up your war chest, build up your savings account. Don't spend please do not spend every dime that you make, because again, I just talked about it earlier in this video. Max, we want to work 45 weeks a year. Like, okay, so what are you going to do? Them other 8 weeks out of the year, 7 weeks out of the year, down near 2 months, you know, you got to have money in the savings to float them other 2 months of you taking a week off here because you need to fix your trailer, or you got sick, you know, or whatever, you took off a week, or, you know, you and your wife go on vacation, so you take off another week, or, you know, your kid graduates from wherever, so you take off a week. All of that time adds up, and you need to have money set aside to where if you're not working, the expenses are still paid. Utilize a factoring company, but stack your chips. Put the money away. You're going to need it. Put the money away. Okay? When you have a big breakdown, put the money away. And if you do this step, my opinion, if you do this step for no more than 12 months, okay, you should have chips stacked. You should have utilize the dispatcher to not only fill your trailer, but to watch them. How are they talking to these people? What are they doing? You know, what kind of rates are they negotiating? What brokers? You're seeing the rate cons come in, right? So what brokers do you like working with? Which ones seem to pay better? Which ones are less harassy, right? With the phone calls and the text message and the email and the and they want to know all the, where are you? Where are you? What's your ETA? What's your ETA? Okay. Utilize both the dispatcher and the factoring service as a temporary thing, and then go up to the next level, which is dispatching yourself and having enough money in savings that you can float yourself, and you can X out the factoring company, and you're completely 100% independent. Every dollar that truck and trailer and you make is going directly to your pocket. Okay, and that's going to be video 5. I hope this sheds some light on everything. I hope this information helps. This series did not do as well as I thought it was going to do, so I hope that I don't hear anything on my Facebook page or on my TikTok page or here on YouTube. I don't want to hear any comments of anybody saying, "Oh, this company screwed me," or blah, blah, blah. If you are not watching this series, I'm trying to give you the information. So if you're not watching it, then shame on you. And I'm doing, you guys, I'm doing a 20K giveaway worth $500 when we get to 20K subscribers. So if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. And as soon as we hit 20K, we'll do a live, and we'll do a giveaway that will be for something that is worth $500, or maybe I'll just throw another Love's gift card and I'll put $500 on it and I'll send it to whoever wins. I don't know yet, but we'll figure it out. You guys, if you're not subscribed, do it, and stay tuned for video 5, which will come out tomorrow, and then we'll finish this series. We'll wrap it up. You guys stay safe, take care. I'll talk to you soon.